Hello and welcome to the HFL Education Business Services podcast. I'm Catherine Loake, the Director of Business Services here at HFL Education. We wanted to bring you this series of podcasts because we recognise that the role of school leadership is growing ever wider, ever deeper, and it's becoming more and more challenging to find the time to unpack some of the key issues away from frontline teaching and learning. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Holroyd. Lisa is our head of our Academies Finance team. So Lisa, you have spent a lot of time working with schools in financial deficit. And today we're going to look at what you can do when you're approaching financial difficulty. It's a really unprecedented time in education right now, isn't it? We're seeing lots of things converging, almost a perfect storm. We're seeing this unprecedented period of inflation. We have seen a significant increase in special educational needs and disabilities. We are seeing lots of change that needs to be factored into costings. It just feels to me that schools have cut all they can cut. Is there anything left to cut?
Well, it's not so much that there's anything left. They've got to continue to work on looking at their staffing, and you'll find that classes are getting larger. We're merging classes now where you're getting 2 year groups in each class. And some schools, when the numbers are getting very small, they're looking at 3 or 4 year groups, which makes that really unmanageable for the teacher in the class. Things like extra PPA time and leadership time are being cut as well to help balance the costs. And this obviously has a bigger impact on staff welfare, and staff are burning out, and we're seeing more and more teachers leaving education because they're just finding it too hard. Curriculum-wise as well, schools having to make cuts, and there would be nice curriculum treats like providing, music tuition and additional nice well-being days out for the children. They're all being cut. Trips are now becoming just purely curriculum essential. There would be nice going to Chessington at year end being cut because the parents can't afford it and the schools can't afford it. So what you find there is that there's disengagement from the children as well. Student support, we're looking at cutting because the deficits are getting larger. The biggest savings are in staffing. So we're cutting the teaching staff to the bone. But not only that, the teaching assistants and the support staff across the school. And this is having an impact on the running of the school as well. Infrastructure, school buildings are falling into disrepair. And this is actually a false economy because where you've got a slight roof leak, by leaving this because you can't afford it, it then becomes further down the line a massive roof replacement, which, even local authorities are struggling with their budgets. So for schools that are maintained schools, the cost of keeping premises in good repair is costing the local authority more. And for academies, they can apply for the condition improvement funds for any building related work. But of course, that pot is also shrinking and the demands on that pot is getting larger.
That all sounds very grim. And I think everyone working in education knows how tough it currently is. And I suppose one of the things we all grapple with is the morality of deficit. And I guess if everyone is approaching the cliff edge, the precipice, does it really matter if you tip into the red? What's the incentive to make sure that your school is solvent?
Deficits do matter because this will trigger further intervention. In the case of maintained schools, the local authority will step in. Pre-warning notice or actual warning notices can be issued and schools could have their delegated responsibility removed from them. In the case of academies, the DfE will step in and academies can be given a financial notice to improve, which puts a lot more scrutiny on the academy where you have to do additional reporting every single month. And you've got to have lots of intervention and lots of outside consultants stepping in, which almost takes away your power, which will cause more rise in workloads because of the intense scrutiny that they will be under.
So it's kind of rock and a hard place then, isn't it? It's kind of do it yourself and make unpalatable decisions, or have your autonomy stripped and have them done to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And all these deficits are reflecting the underfunding that there is in education. Deficits are increasing. The SEND that schools are dealing with now has risen considerably, even in the 20, 30 years I've worked in education. And we hear regularly from schools saying, my school's been recognised as a school that is excellent with their SEND, so we're getting more and more children with higher SEND needs. But we're hearing that from every school, not just 1 or 2 schools. Schools are no longer given the option about expanding because the fall in pupil numbers, which is a national crisis, is impacting. And this current stream of children in primary will go through to secondaries who will be hit just as hard as well with falling pupil roles. And obviously they're going to have to start working on not only their staffing structure, but restricting their curriculum to try and keep their books balanced. A lot of the premises related issues are about compliance, where schools have to be compliant with the regulations, and this costs money. Having some of the tests undertaken, a 5-year electricity test, there's thousands of pounds that needs to be put aside and spent as well.
I mean, you and I both know you lay out all of the statutory guidance and expectations on schools. We put them all out on the table and costed them. The school budget's never going to cover them all. So there are hard choices, aren't there? I guess there's two things I'd add to what you've said from the work I've done with schools in financial difficulty. The first is that deficit's like a rising tide. 1 minute it's sort of lapping at your feet, and the next minute you're literally up to your neck in it, and it just comes on so quickly. The more deficit you're in, the more the unpalatable decisions you have to make. So that's really, really tricky. And the other thing I'd probably say is the morality of this kind of really hurts. Obviously, we know that there is an underfunding in education, but today's deficit is tomorrow's cut. And if we don't live within our financial envelopes, the quality of the education that tomorrow's children, which are going to be part of a leader's school setting or trust, isn't going to be comparable to today's. And that's, again, I think, the counter side of the coin to the moral argument as to why we need to get on top of deficits.
Absolutely. If you're recognising across the medium term in your 3-year financial plan that you are heading towards deficit, start acting on it now. Don't bury your head in the sand. Because as you say, if a school is in deficit 30, 40,000, you've got time to start to mitigate that. When you're looking at hundreds of thousands, it becomes totally unmanageable.
And I suppose the $64,000 question, Lisa, whose responsibility is it? Who's accountable at the end of the day for ensuring that schools are operating within their financial envelopes?
Well, that falls to everybody realistically, because the head teacher and the principals have a responsibility for staying within their financial envelope. The governing body, the trust board, they are there to question and challenge the leadership team to ensure that they are staying within their financial boundaries. And if not, it's about questioning what is it we can do to ensure financial sustainability, because once schools go into heavy deficit, then they can't maintain financial sustainability. And your school business manager, your CFO, they are there for the operational day-to-day so that they can advise the trust board, the governors and the leadership team. And they are there to alert them if they are starting to head into deficit as well. The local authority has a responsibility, and as does the DfE, to ensure schools are as funded as well as they can be. But we know the pots are shrinking, but they have a responsibility as well to ensure that schools are staying financially viable. As you say, all these restrictions and all this compliance is put on schools and educational and the curriculum. If we lay it out, it's not affordable. But yet we are seeing inflation busting pay rises and the cost of living is rising. It's all becoming very unwieldy.
And I guess one of the things we always say is control the controllables, but it feels like the uncontrollables are taking over for the controllables now, because we've got rising levels of SEND, we've got falling roles, we've got inflation. Again, to what extent can a school control their financial position? Are there times when genuinely a school cannot balance its books because circumstances kind of stack up against it?
Sometimes you can be hit all of a sudden. You can plan your budget as the beginning of the financial year, and you can be hit with a long-term sickness absence. You can get caught out. But what people need to start doing with this is start thinking outside the box a little bit more so they can manage these uncontrollables. Do you really need to get an agency staff in? Is there any capacity with your existing staffing structure? And quite often when we're doing our reviews to support schools, we are there in a supportive capacity. Is say, look, have a look at your staffing structure. You have got a little bit of flexibility within your staffing structure. It's not very palatable for some schools, but these are the decisions that have to be made rather than further down the line going through restructures and having to make staff redundant, which is never a nice road to go along.
In closing, what sort of final piece of advice would you give to a head or a CEO who is looking at a deficit as they're setting their budget this year?
I think you've got to look broadly across everything you've got. Look at your workforce instead of just rolling forward your budgets year on year. Start with a blank sheet of paper. Start with your structure. You've got 7 classes, you need 7 teachers. Then look at your SEN need, what support you need there. What about your premises? Is there any compliance issues you need to ensure that you fund it for? Is there any major maintenance coming up? Look outside of your school. Start looking in collaboration. We're not talking about going for formal federation, but there is no reason you can't reach out to schools alongside you or even academies alongside you where you can share roles and responsibilities. The federation I was in, because it was a small school, what we did is we took the responsibility of curriculum responsibility of having 2, 1 in each school, and shared it across so that resources could be shared across. We could buy 1 set, and it meant juggling the timetable so that, for instance, if we got some new English resources, that one term one school would use these resources and the second term it would move across. So you can share your staffing. If you've got education support staff who have got some capacity within their contracts, We find lots of schools have them on nearly full-time contracts, which aren't required. Can that be utilised in a different way? What is it you can do with your premises? Are you in town centre that you could rent out on a Saturday your premises? These are small things, but they are things that will work. And if you want to look at raising income, there are companies out there that will do it for you and will support you through it, because it's not one person's responsibility. You've just got to start looking at the wider picture and where you can make savings and where you can support yourselves across different schools.
I would add to that, to take staff with you, to have those early conversations, to share the budget position, because actually you often find some of the solutions come from the staff themselves, and actually people might be thinking about flexible retirement, or there's various things that they want to consider, and actually the solutions are sort of within your gift. So I think, again, not being afraid to have those difficult conversations and being honest about the budget.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we advise. If we recognise they're overstaffed, I always say, speak to your staff informally first, explain the budget, show them the budget every year you set it. There's always somebody out there that took the job and it was 5 days a week, but they don't really want to work 5 days a week. And if you need some specialism, do you need to employ a full-time member of staff, or can you get that specialism from another school within the area?
Well, Lisa, look, thank you for lending us your time and your expertise. That's been really, really helpful. Hopefully you found the podcast really helpful as well. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions, leave a comment and Lisa and I will gladly answer.